We've done a video on 10 missing heroes in FC25 and also a video on 10 missing icons on FC25, and you guys seem to enjoy the videos, and I saw one person commented that we need a video on future icons, so I've gone ahead and created 10 concept cards for players that I think should be an icon when they do retire in FC28 or whatever game. And the first player that we're going to look at today is Sergio Busquets. I think this man is quite underappreciated. He is highly rated, but I think he truly is probably the best defensive midfielder in the world from 2010 to 2017. I would say he was probably number 1 or 2 throughout that 7-year period. Formed the best midfield three of all time, arguably, with himself, Xavi and Iniesta. Obviously, he was never ever good on FIFA because he had really low pace, but I still do think he deserves an icon card when he does retire. Only 88 rated though, so nothing crazy. There's a famous saying about Sergio Busquets, I'm sure you've heard it a million times. When you watch the game, you don't see Busquets, but when you watch Busquets, you see the whole game. I think the most underrated thing about Busquets' game is the little bit of flair. He sort of has a little bit of flair and trickery, hence what makes him so press resistant. That's why I've given him the press proven playstyle for the plus and flair as base. I think this card will just probably end up being one of the worst icons on the game, but I think it represents him well. And next up, we have Thomas Müller. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that I'm a Bayern Munich fan. And what you'll also know is that we are on the road to 10 million subscribers. That's right, guys. We're a little bit off it. But yeah, subscribe to the channel so we can get to 10 million. Anyway, I saw a video on Instagram Reels while doom scrolling on the way to university, and it made me so upset. Yeah, so I can't believe that he is going to be leaving Bayern at the end of the season, most likely. I mean, all players have to leave at some point, you know, they can't be there forever, but I don't know, I just thought he would be there forever. Yeah, it's quite sad. This is kind of what made me want to do this video, apart from the comment. I just wanted to big up Thomas Müller, so let's go. When I think of Thomas Müller, the first thing that comes to mind is him awkwardly jumping in the air to control a ball with his lanky legs and no strength. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, like controlling the ball from underneath him while he's mid-air, sticking his foot out and taking a touch, hence why I've given him the first touch play style. It's very common that when people talk about Thomas Müller, they say he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, you know, that typical rhetoric that everyone goes through, and I'm not saying I disagree, and they normally say it's because he's footballing IQ, and I agree. However, it's not footballing IQ in the sense that he always picks the perfect pass. I mean, he normally does play good passes, but it's in the sense of he'll just find creative ways of doing things, like pushing Jordi Alba out of the way, so Robin can score. I think it was Robin who scored that goal, or like taking a touch on his right so it perfectly falls to his left and he can volley it when no one would expect him to do that, because why would you take a touch on your right and move it all the way to your weaker foot to take a volley? You know what I mean? And this guy's World Cup campaigns are so underrated. Like, if we didn't fall off after 2018 in the international competitions, obviously we're still doing good in qualifiers and all that, Müller would have been up there as one of the World Cup all-time top goal scorers, and probably up there for assists. His first two campaigns, 2010 and 2014, he had 5 goals and 3 assists in both of them. So he already had 16 goal contributions by the time we got to the 2018 World Cup. He would have needed 6 goals across those two to equal Klose, and obviously that's not going to happen. He's retired from the national team now. I think when Müller retires, he definitely deserves an icon. I do not want to see him get a hero card. He definitely should have an icon card. And you might be thinking 4-star skill moves is a bit generous, 83 pace is a bit generous, and yet probably is, but I don't care. We've obviously given him attacking mid and striker. He's famous for playing as a 10, I guess you would say, for Bayern, or as a second striker, and right mid because he's played there a fair bit for Germany, and he's filled in there for Bayern as well at times. I talked about Thomas Müller for long enough, and now we're going to move to one of the greatest centre-backs of all time, Sergio Ramos. But as you can tell by the fact I've given him 90 rating, I don't think he is the best centre-back of all time like many people would have you believe. I'm not going to go ahead and call you crazy for thinking that, but just in my opinion, I think he's probably 6th best. Yeah. Obviously very well known for his red cards and his hot head at times. You know, his battles with Messi, his leadership, and his goals as well. 130, something like that. I've given him the Bruiser Plus because he impresses me with his strength. But I feel like everyone knows Ramos is going to be an icon when he retires. So I'm going to have to justify why he's only 90 rated. For me, you look at some of the Real Madrid games when they were in their very successful three-peat era, and I see some of the goals they concede, and I just go, oh, it's a mistake from Ramos. It just is a mistake from Ramos. I think the defense was shaky at times, hence why I've only got him down as a 90. But when you compare it to someone like, I don't know, Sol Campbell, who's 86, he's still 4 ratings higher than him, one of the better centre-backs on the game. And I think this card would actually be pretty good. We've obviously given him the right back position as well, because he did play there a lot throughout the early phases of his career. Next up is Virgil van Dijk, and boy oh boy does this look awkward. I have him as higher rated than Sergio Ramos. Now, many people don't really appreciate what Van Dijk does, in my opinion. They say, oh, but he doesn't have the longevity. He's been at Liverpool since like the start of 2018. We're in 2025 now. You do the math. Not only that, but he was also playing at Southampton, and he got into the Premier League team of the season. Do you want to know another thing he did at Southampton? Got them into Europe. Do you want to know another thing he did at Southampton? Scored the winning goal against Inter Milan in the Europa League. While they didn't have the most successful Europa League season, I think that's a pretty good thing to have on your CV. For me, Van Dijk is one of the most intelligent defenders of all time, and I have him above Sergio Ramos. I think his decision-making defensively is better. He's a lot less rash. I just think he reads the game at a higher level. I think Van Dijk's a better passer of the ball. His long balls, crossfield diags, a lot of centre-backs do it, but I think Van Dijk is really good at it. And you have to take into account, for most of his Liverpool career, he's had 2 fullbacks that love to get forward, and his centre-back beside him has always been of a much lower quality than him. Like, if you look at Ramos' centre-back partnership, he had Rafael Varane, or he had Pepe, or even, I guess, Eder Militao. At PSG, he had Marquinhos. I'll be honest, I don't know who he... Oh, well, he was right back at Sevilla, but, yeah. When you look at Van Dijk, he's had Joel Matip, Kanate. Those are probably the 2 main ones who have been the starters. Joe Gomez. You know, they're just not the same quality. One thing that pisses me off about people who don't rate Virgil van Dijk as highly as I think they should is that, for example, I saw an Instagram comment once that said, all Van Dijk does is jockey. Yeah, that's kind of the best way to defend. You jockey and you push the person completely away from goals. You don't always have to be rash and make a slide tackle. I mean, Paolo Maldini said once, if you have to make a slide tackle, it means you've made a mistake somewhere. And I think Virgil van Dijk is the perfect example of that. He doesn't have to get into the positions very often where he makes a slide tackle. And when he does, it's normally someone else's fault. You know, let me just tell a quick anecdote about myself. I play Sunday League. I've played centre-back for the last 2 years, and my teammates get mad when I don't just dive in and go for a tackle straight away. But what they don't realise is that I'm pushing the striker all the way out to the wing, and he's got no chance of scoring anymore. He's got no passing options. He kicks it into me, and the ball goes back to us. I think Virgil van Dijk and me are very similar in that sort of sense. Anyway, too much talk about Virgil van Dijk. Next player, Robert Lewandowski. Obviously, a one-time Ballon d'Or winner in everyone's eyes. There was no reason to cancel the 2020 Ballon d'Or. Literally, the only league of the top 5 leagues that didn't keep playing was the Ligue 1. And was Mbappe winning it? Was Neymar winning it? Maybe, but probably not when Lewandowski's having his best period of his whole entire career. I think he probably deserved it over Messi in 2021 as well. I think individually he was better if you're not just looking at team awards. He also, the year later, broke the Bundesliga goal record with 41 goals in 29 games, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Imagine he played those 5 extra games. I've given him Finesse Shot Plus just because I think that's probably the best shooting play style, and I want him to just be an absolute gunman in-game. And when you look at the other play styles, you'll notice I've given him Technical, Press Proven, First Touch as well. Those are probably the most surprising ones. I think Lewandowski's technical ability is very underrated, and I think I could have even given him tiki-taka because his ability to just play nice little first-time passes. It might not be hard, but it's the simple things that he was really good at with passing. Great with his back to goal. I could have even given him acrobatic because he had a decent volley in him, or even a bicycle kick in the Champions League that bounced before it went in, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I don't think you can argue with me on Lewandowski being an icon. I almost just said he's better than Suarez. All in all, Lewandowski is on a pretty similar level to Luis Suarez, who, by the way, is not in this video, not because I don't think he should be an icon, but I just didn't want to have this list full of attackers. Next up, we have gone for Kevin De Bruyne. Slightly losing his legs at this stage. It looks awkward when he's like at full sprint now, but he's still an absolute creative machine when he does have the ball. I think Kevin De Bruyne is the best passer of all time.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
That is just my personal opinion. I know Messi's got more assists, but I just can't look past Kevin De Bruyne's ability to play a disguised pass, a cross, a trivela pass, just a regular through ball. I'm not saying Messi doesn't have that in his locker, but I think Kevin De Bruyne's range of passing and eye for a pass is better than Lionel Messi's. Not only can he play brilliant passes, but he's also a great striker of the ball, hence why I've given him power shot and finesse shot. He also has that little bit of flair to his game, which he doesn't show very often, but when he does show it, you're kind of looking at him and going, oh, I didn't realize you had that. Yeah, I think he had a goal against Watford where he did a couple of skills. Like he rolled the ball to the side, pulled a step over, pushed it out on his right and curled it into the top right. If I'm not mistaken, it might not be Watford. It could have been Norwich or something. And I'm not going to lie, when I'm looking at best midfielders of all time, not including a 6, like just 8s and 10s, I think De Bruyne is top 5. Top 5. I probably have Xavi, Iniesta, Modric, and Pirlo above him. Honestly, I think when you're making a Premier League all-time 11, De Bruyne definitely gets in there. I think the only sort of tint on De Bruyne's career, in my opinion, is his international career. He was actually pretty good at the last Euros. It's not been him individually that's been bad, but it's just more so that he hasn't been able to galvanise his team to actually win any international tournament. I think Euro 2020, which was played in 2021, that was the one they really could have got. Because they were a better team than Italy, in my opinion. The 2018 World Cup as well, they had a pretty good chance in that. Finished 3rd in the end. And guys, I'm going to leave you with one hot take before I move on to the next player. The Ballon d'Or in 2022-23 for that season that many people think Haaland deserved more than Messi. I would agree with you. I think Haaland deserves it more than Messi. But you know who I think deserves it more than Erling Haaland? The man on your screen right now. I think Kevin De Bruyne should have won the 22-23 Ballon d'Or. I think he was City's best player that year. And I think City were the best team that year. So I think it just makes sense that Kevin De Bruyne should have won it. Next player is Luka Modric. You'll be happy to know I have him as higher rated than Kevin De Bruyne, but I was very close to giving Kevin De Bruyne a 92 rated card as well. What can I say about Luka Modric? An ever-present player in Real Madrid's most successful period in modern history, winning 6 Champions Leagues, getting to a World Cup final with Croatia, then a semi-final of the World Cup with Croatia, winning the 3rd place playoff. So he's got Croatia 2nd and 3rd in a World Cup. Not winning it, but obviously that's impressive for a country of their stature and size. I do think that their route to the final in the 2018 World Cup was somewhat easy as it can get for a World Cup. Few penalty shootouts, and I think that their team was actually better than a lot of people made it out to be. You know, you had Subasic in net coming off a great season with Monaco. You had Dejan Lovren coming off a great season with Liverpool. You had Rakitic in midfield. You had Modric in midfield. You had Mario Mandzukic. You had Ivan Perisic. I think there was a lot of good names in that side, and they just gelled together really well. Luka Modric is just one of the greatest midfielders of all time, and it's as simple as that. I don't know what else I can say. Career highlights for him. There's not a particular one that stands out to me, or there's not a particular hot take I have that's positive for him. I guess the only thing is that he didn't deserve the 2018 Ballon d'Or, but whatever. I'm not really that fussed by that. It's not the worst like robbery there's ever been. I think he's a great passer of the ball, a great dribbler, and I think his defensive capabilities are underrated. It's more so his willingness to defend that I like. By the way, I should be mentioning positions more. De Bruyne had right mid because he played there a little bit in the 16-17 season, and Modric just all the way throughout central midfield. Next up is Neymar. A very polarizing figure in the football community. Some people are like, oh, well, he is just better than Ronaldinho. Like, Don't let your nostalgia get ahead of you. And there's a lot of people who think the complete opposite. Don't let your recency bias get ahead of you. Same can be said for De Bruyne and other Premier League midfielders, by the way. Stop talking about De Bruyne. I've got a weird obsession with him, clearly. Despite the fact that Neymar probably didn't reach the heights he could, whether it be due to work rate, whether it be due to injuries, it doesn't matter. He could have been a better player. And I think in most other eras of football, he would have been considered a better player. Like if we imagine Michael Owen won a Ballon d'Or, right? Neymar's best season is better than the season Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or. I think it's just as simple as that. Obviously, he had 4 great years at Barcelona, then moved to PSG, and was individually actually really brilliant. I think his best year, just as how good he was as a player, was probably 2018. Just individually, I think he was just breathtaking. But obviously, when you're at PSG, the opponents aren't as good, I know that. He's probably got the best showmanship in modern footballing history, like last 10 years. 5-star, 5-star goes without saying. Left wing, left mid, he has to have them. Attacking mid, he played there a fair bit, more so towards the end of his career. And striker as well, going back to his Santos days. Next up is Lionel Messi, 96 rated, 1 rating higher than Pele. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I want to just mention a few quick career highlights, but we could be here all day. And let's be here all day. You know, many people who just watch football off Twitter always say, but Messi 2012, he had 91 goals. Yeah, he did, but I don't think that was his best year. I think 2011 was better. I think 2015 was better. I think even 2019 he was better. 2011, you just had the best dribbler of all time. Amazing goal scoring still. Not as high of a level as the year he scored 91. I think he had 60 in the 2010-11 season and 73 in the 11-12 season. But he probably had the best Champions League final performance of all time in 2011 against Manchester United, in my opinion. You have 2015, and that was prime MSN. No one was stopping them. They won the treble, and I just think he was great. I think that's his first season where he was fully just a right winger. He's not a 10 anymore. He's not a false 9. He's not through the middle. He became a pure right winger, mostly to accommodate for Luis Suarez, but I think that was probably his best year he had as a pure winger. He's the best dribbler, or he's the best goal scorer. He did everything. And the same could be said for 2019, but just without as much pace. I think that was his best playmaking year. Up until then, yes, he was still getting the assists, but I don't think he was seen as a playmaker for his standards compared to how good as he was at everything else. Whereas now you kind of think of him as more of a dribbling playmaker player than a pure goal scorer, I think. And that's been since 2019. He obviously won the Ballon d'Or in each year I've mentioned. I mean, there's 8 years to pick from. It's pretty likely I was going to pick years that he was good in where he won the Ballon d'Or. For all the other players in this video, I was thinking, oh, how can I give them an extra play style? I'll give them this, I guess. They kind of deserve it. But for Messi and the guy who's coming up next, I was thinking, I guess I can't include that one. Yeah, no, I'll go without that one. And there's so many for both of them. Only 4-star, 4-star. He never really did skill moves, per se. And he doesn't use his right foot that often. So to be honest, he could be a 3-star, 3-star player. But let's not be ridiculous. Right wing, right mid, goes without saying. Cam and striker, that's just to represent like the false 9 sort of role he's played. And he's also played as a 10 and a striker for some of his different teams. You know, PSG, Inter Miami now, and even Argentina. And next up is Cristiano Ronaldo. Sorry, that picture, he's like trying to aura farm or something. I only picked this because it looks somewhat old school when you put it with the grey filter. Again, looking for playstyles to take off of him. There's quite a few that didn't go in here. Obviously, power header would be one of them. Even incisive or whipped pass from when he was playing on the wing. Again, what do we say about Cristiano Ronaldo? This icon card is sort of based off like 2012 sort of era, where I think he had the perfect combination of still having his flair and trickery, dribbling ability, while also being able to score absolute screamers from anywhere on the pitch. Still scoring a couple of free kicks. Like his early days at Madrid, that's when I think he was at his best all-round play. It's weird with Messi, it was so much easier to pinpoint specific years where that was his thing. I guess you can look at 2008 and go, this is the year where he finally went, I can do all these tricks and flicks and all this, entertain the crowd, and I can also just score a shit ton of goals. I mean, he won the European Golden Boot as a right midfielder. Yes, I know he was a winger, but technically right mid. Then you look at that 2012 sort of 13 era. I've just explained that. And then maybe for the UCL three-peat, you're looking at more of a, not a target man, but I'm just going to keep scoring and scoring and scoring. It's not that he wasn't getting assists. Then you got the Juventus era, which is the same. And actually, I think his most underrated thing at Juventus was his passing ability. I think there was a few games where you look and go, oh shit, nice little flick, backheel pass, a left-footed pass, a nice cross. It doesn't look as elegant because sometimes taller players, when they're trying to play nice passes and have nice shots, it just doesn't look as elegant. I don't know what I'm saying. Cristiano Ronaldo, if I haven't mentioned it, I actually prefer him over Messi. Probably is not a surprise considering I gave him 5-star, 5-star. But I think it's just personal preference. What he has as a player is what I prefer more than what Messi has. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I really don't care. I think it's a stupid debate. It's a game of opinions. But somehow when you talk about Messi and Ronaldo, one side of the argument always thinks they're right and the other one always thinks they're right. But I will quickly justify 5-star skill moves is going back to his younger days. 5-star weak foot is looking at when he's more the complete sort of product and he can score on both feet. Anyway, I would love to make a video talking just about how much I love Messi and Ronaldo that goes for like an hour and a half. Could do that. But I think I'm going to leave it there. I've waffled enough. I've probably been recording for half an hour. The video might only be 20 minutes because I started like, I can't make a joke that'll get me cancelled. Anyway, subscribe to the channel right now. I just heard, I think if you don't subscribe, your house is going to blow up. So that's really unfortunate. That's a joke, by the way, if you live anywhere where there's a war. So, I've never actually thought about it when I say that before. Anyway, leave a like and subscribe or else. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.